Who needs attractions or food, right? So if you remember in the last video, we left off with a really dirty Vespa Super Engine. And the next step in my journey to build this was to go on a road trip. And during this road trip I saw some dope cars, a lot of rain, and I eventually made it 12 hours away from Lake Geneva, down to Tennessee, to Chattanooga, to the home of SaintsCycleWorks. And its owner, a encyclopedia of knowledge, Joe Casola. And here we have Joe. He's the guy who runs SaintsCycleWorks, and he's the guy giving orders. Because the first thing I had to do when I got there is Joe told me to clean the engine. We then applied a kind of secret SaintsCycleWorks methods to get the cases polished and all the way back up to almost a factory shine. And we're getting ready to cut a third port into it. How we got it so clean, you ask? Well,
that's classified.
It's what?
Yeah. So in order to cut some decent ports into it, Joe pulled out the aluminum welder and put on some nice aluminum welds. This way I could do what I enjoy the most, which is take out the rotary tool and cut out a whole bunch of aluminum and make some really nice flowing ports. It was really cool using a Fordham tool. Joe let me use his stuff, and it was a blast. It was so much better than my Dremel. With all that done, I present to you a 1974 VBC engine with 3 ports, meticulously cleaned and ready to be put together. The engine is flowed for a Malossi 166, and the intake is ready for a Polini intake with a PHPH 28mm carb. Now, the Vespa VBC engine was one of the early ones in the US that had auto loop. But because we're using a side draft carburetor, we can't use the oil pump, so we're not using the oil pump drive. So Joe and I wanted to come up with a solution to plug it that was also reversible. And our take on it was to use the original oil pump drive guide. It's like this brass thing. And I'll let Joe explain what we did.
So we just got done tapping the hole out here for the oil pump drive, because it's going to have a Polini intake and this will be open. So what we're going to do is we're going to tap the hole in here, and what we did was we tapped it with an M8 by 1.25 bolt. It taps out real easy, doesn't need to drill. There's the bolt. And to retain it, instead of using red Loctite or blue Loctite, I like using Loctite 620 retaining compound. The reason why this is very good is because it fills all gaps, and it's also extremely high temperature. Loctite blue and red, that's how you break it free, is actually by heating it up. So in high temperature situations, red Loctite and blue will actually fail and break down, whereas Loctite 620 will not. So anytime you actually need to fill a gap and seal something or retain a large surface area like a bearing that doesn't fit well inside the brass housing on early VBBs and Sprints and such that have the brass bearing retainer, this is the best thing you can use for that. Just a little bit of this around the outside of it, thread it in, and it's going to lock itself in nicely and seal it. There you go. And now we'll put a little bit of retaining compound around the outside of this as well when we drop it down in there, and it'll be sealed. There's an O-ring as well, but a little bit of retaining compound will keep that down there and sealed, and that way we don't have any kind of oil coming up through the clutch area outside by the carburetor.
So I spent most of day 1 and the beginning of day 2 getting everything ready, and now it was time to put all this stuff you see here back together. And to do this, let's rock out to some music. Yes, I did not notice that I forgot to put the Kickstarter gear in. But my time was up, so I closed up the engine. I packed up all my stuff, engine, camera things, put them back in the car, and got ready to ride home. And that's where I'm going to leave you, because we're going home. We're going to pull the engine apart, throw that Kickstarter gear back in, and then do a little modification to mount our really cool SIP vape ignition. Until then, don't forget to comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out Midwest Action Cycles, who are organizers of Amerivespa 2019, and they provide a lot of these parts. And of course, check out Joe and SaintsCycleWorks. This would have not been possible at this degree without all his knowledge in restoring old engines. So thank you, Joe. Big shout out to him here. And thank you all for watching. I will see you in the next video. And in that one, it will probably fire up.